right, guys, welcome to the Origin Story podcast. Today we have an amazing human being, an amazing guest, a entrepreneur, a mentor, somebody who really is here to serve, and excited to hear his story of how he got into the entrepreneurship game, some of the stories, some of the struggles he's faced on his way up the game, and really what he's got going on now. He's someone who's actually in lots of different areas of investing: real estate, he's in business, and he's in crypto, and all these things they're moving around, they're shaking, there's lots of things going on, and he's someone who I'm really excited to hear about, not only what he has in store for right now and for the future, but how he got to be where he is today. And so without further ado, Danny Young, thank you so much for showing up here on the podcast today, and
thanks,
again,
guys,
giving us your time, giving us your attention, and just really excited to hear your story. So Sam, if you don't mind kind of leading us in here.
Yeah, thank you, Logan. Dan, a lot of what we like to do on the Origin Story is that we like to highlight success in a big way. And the success that people have currently is looking into you and everything that you've got going on right now. You've got a lot of success. And that's a cumulative process. And that's amazing, and it's inspiring, and it motivates people to get up and get to work. But Logan and I firmly believe that it's sometimes very difficult for people to relate to that, right? And it's like motivation. Logan's a huge fitness guy, and I think he can attest this. When you're first starting to work out, you can go and watch a YouTube video of Dwayne Johnson lifting, and it can make you want to get up and do 20 push-ups. The reality is what kind of inspires you to long-term measurable action. And I firmly believe that it's finding the people who are ahead of you, who've made it to whatever degree of success that you want, but seeing where they started, because that's more relatable. It's very difficult for me as a young guy to relate to all the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris on the Vegas Strip. That's something I can't relate to yet. But if I meet that business owner, that entrepreneur who's killing it, and he has the Lambos, but maybe I find out that he comes from a similar background to me. Maybe he was raised by a single mother like I was in the hood. That right there is going to resonate a little bit more, and I'm going to be able to connect with him. And I think Logan and I see the value in that. We see the power in that. That's something personally I was taught by our mentor, Pace Morby. And it's what we want to do on this thing. It's why we call it the Origin Story. So if you will, I'd love to hear about your story, where you started, where you come from, how all this happened.
Yeah. All right. So long ago, back in the 1930s and 40s, in the galaxy far away, just kidding. Now, my parents grew up in China on the beginning of the, a big war that was happening with Japan and then communists and all that, right? So they were... my family was a family of entrepreneurs. My uncle had one of the first Coca-Cola franchises in China. This is pre-communist and all that. So, and it was interesting because my grandpa out there, he was an ambassador from China to Japan pre-war as well. And so they lived really, really, really well out there. This is like, I never met any of those guys. But then this big war started, right? And they tried to take entrepreneurs and convert them to become communists and things like that. And my uncle refused, so they took away his company and put him in prison, a prison camp over there. So pretty tough times for my ancestors over there. But my dad escaped to the U.S., got a job as a janitor, and then for the U.S. Army, which was pretty cool. He was designing propaganda pamphlets for the Army. They'd drop over war zones, right? Support the troops, American troops. So that was his beginnings. And my mother actually came over, and they met in California. But here in America, though, they were poor. They really had nothing. And they built everything from nothing. My dad was a janitor, and my mom was a bank teller, right? Like very minimal income. And so we were pretty poor when I was a little kid. We didn't make a lot of money. They didn't make a lot of money. So that's where I got into entrepreneurship. And that's where at first I would when I was a teenager, bring stuff to school, like candy and things like that, and sell it to other kids. And then during the summertime, I got a side hustle selling knockoff sunglasses, knockoff Ray-Ban sunglasses at the beach. And I figured, well, this is great, man. All the girls at the beach, all my friends at the beach. I can hang out at the beach, have a few drinks, sell sunglasses. And we started printing some good money doing that, right? Then I got really rowdy, started hanging around some friends that were, just rowdy friends, partying too much and stuff. Got in a little bit of trouble, went to some juvenile hall for a bit. And then when I got out of juvenile hall, my parents were like, you got to get out of LA because this is Los Angeles, right? So I moved in with my sister in Salt Lake City, Utah. And that's where I landed. Now, I lived with her. I was 15 years old. So I lived with her for a little bit. And she kicked me out in a month. I got a job telemarketing, selling carpet cleaning on the phone, right?
Nice.
And I got a job in the mall at Radio Shack, that electronics store, right? It's crazy. And then at the weekend, I go to swap meets, and I would sell like Ginsu knives and brass knuckles and pepper gas. But I met my mentor, Mike, in the mall. This old man comes in. He's like, hey, my broken radio, my ham radio, fix it. So he goes, you like Chinese food? And I'm like, yeah, I'm Chinese. So yeah, I like Chinese food. He's like, cool, bro. Let's go to Panda Express in the strip mall, and I'll talk about life. You're cool, man. You fixed my radio. You're a good kid. And I'm like, what do you do? Old Obi-Wan. And he's like, oh, I sold my company for $2 billion. I'm retired. I just play with my radio and play video games now. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He goes, do you have a mentor? And I'm like, not really. My parents don't live here. And my sister, she's working for a college. So she makes crap, right? And I wasn't a college person. I went for a little bit and then dropped out. But I ended up getting a Stanford graduate degree. I'll tell you how. It's kind of funny. Not that there's any value to it except for giving it to your mom and her being proud, right? But pretty useless piece of paper. Sorry, Stanford. So I started.
Sam went to Stanford, by the way.
Yeah. I have a
No, he's joking. I'm just a decently smart. I'm smart. I'm not that smart, unfortunately.
So this guy says, hey, would you like to be a millionaire? And he goes, if you do everything I tell you to do and you execute, you'll be a millionaire. He goes, first things first, when you go to the swap meet, I want you to drive up your show because it's either a lead problem or a closing problem. And you need to entertain people to get their attention. So I used to take a lot of martial arts. So I put on my karate gi, and then I did my Ginsu knife show. I was chopping fruits and wood and all kinds of stuff. And I went from making $200 a day to $1,000 a day on weekends. So I was like, that's pretty good. So then this mentor taught me about stock. He's like, hey, you should buy Amazon and Microsoft and these tech companies. You're selling their software for Microsoft. And so I bought some stock in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, which was cool. And then I went to go work for a big electronics superstore. They went out of business, and he's like, you should just go on your own, do your own thing. So when the company I worked for went out of business, they had a database of tens of thousands of customers I'd sold computers to. And so I just cold called them. And I'm like, hey, I will honor your warranty, even though the company that I'm working for now is out of business. Is that cool? And it turned out to be pretty good. So that first year, though, it was bad. I lost, what was it? A little over $25,000 on any of these warranties. And then the next year we did $1 million in revenue, which was cool. And so it took 3 years to become a millionaire from minimum wage after meeting this mentor, who's still a friend of mine today.
Wow.
So,
wait, I have to highlight that. I'm so sorry, but I have to highlight that. So the first year you went negative 25, and the next year you cleared 7 figures.
Did $1 million in revenue. Profitability, net profit was about 170,000 net after covering expenses, employee payroll, that junk, But that's pretty good for
Hell yeah, it is.
keep going. So I was pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, to see a bounce back like that, right? And as someone who's young in the entrepreneurial space, it's I'm starting to learn that in such a massive way, right? When you talk about profitability and how to scale things, that's a lot of growth in a very short amount of time. And we don't have to get into it, but I'm just like, my mind goes, okay, what did that system, that operation look like that yielded the negative 25 in the beginning, and what changed within a 12-month time span, 24-month time span, to flip it on its head, because that is really aggressively up. But it's amazing. It's amazing that you did that.
It's giving. So these people didn't buy computers necessarily from me directly. They bought it. Well, the company that I worked for got most of the profit. I'd make a little commission on the sales floor, right?
Yeah.
So it was, these people felt abandoned because the company they bought it from went bankrupt and they were in pain. And so I just adopted them. And they're like, man, if this guy's gonna take care of us like this, we want to reciprocate by giving him our business, because he's like doing this just to help us, And that's where it's always give first, and then you don't even have to ask. If you give genuinely, authentically, the universe tends to reciprocate, Yeah.
So can I
So the way
go
that
ahead,
I
Logan.
understand it, the way I understand is that you basically made an investment into these people, right? So you decided that you were going to take on the work of something that you didn't get paid for, and by doing that, you basically accrued about $25,000 in losses by being able to run the business, manage the business. But you had the vision to see that this was going to take off, and that you had value in the marketplace, and that eventually you saw a way to not only make the money back, but also to profit and take care of the customer. Is that?
Yeah, but you have to throw in an ask though. So when I'd go to businesses and fix computers and stuff, I'd say, hey man, I'm going to stick a sticker on your computer on all of them, and there's a pager number on there. And if you need new computers or to upgrade the old ones or whatever, you just call me and I will help you. And the phone just ran off the hook,
Oh, we just had some lag there. Okay, so now you got to a point where you had the negative 25, right, in losses and most importantly learning experiences, and then through giving and honoring promises that you didn't even make. I mean, that's what shocks me a little bit is that's a true testament to someone's giving nature, right? It's one thing to step up and honor the promises that you made. It's another thing to step up and honor the promises that someone else made and wasn't able to follow through on, and it yielded through so much success and blessings. You have a 7-figure year, and that's sustained. So what happens from there?
So that's when I started deciding, okay, I need to advertise and hire more people. So we had one location. I was happy. Got to buy my supercharged Camaro. At the time, that was really cool. Still cool, but
Still is cool. Yeah.
But I'm like, so the mentor friend of mine's like, hey, you need to scale your company. You need multiple locations. You need to hire someone in charge of like your books. You need a sales manager. You need some sales bros and girls. You need repair guys. So at that time, I only had me and one friend helping me, right? And so then we went up to like 20 people in a year. And then that's when our revenue went up like 500%. So we kept expanding. I started back in 92. And then what went really crazy though is gaming started getting really popular about 10, 11 years ago. And so I started an online version of that company, called it a different name, Xidax, Xidax. And then that just blew up as well. So it turned out to be pretty good. But the one thing that I learned, a lot of people will ask, well, how did you get good at real estate? How did you get at stocks? How did you get good at crypto? And it's simply experience, right? And having good mentors. And that was really key. So I'm pretty good at real estate. I own a lot of it, and that's because I've just been buying a lot of it since the 90s, and I don't sell a lot of it. It just cash flow. It's a mathematical equation. It's good location, those kind of things, and upside opportunity, cap rates. You guys know all that. So that was easy. Stocks were just an easy one. I just picked big top 10 tech, dollar cost average, and I still do the same ones every month for 30 years, and I'm adding a few to the mix, and I just don't sell them. So that's pretty good. And crypto has been on the base thesis of that as well. Obviously, I have a crypto hedge fund, the Ugly Unicorn Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so we manage large family office money, a lot of credit investors and things like that. So like everything is just experiential, but it takes time. A lot of people think you'll get rich overnight. And I don't know any traders who've been rich more than a decade, like people who trade. Now, people who accumulate and have cash flowing assets, though, and appreciating assets, that's the way to go. So it's not that hard. It's actually super simple. It's just got to be consistent, right?
So there's a lot to this, right? And for me, getting into the world of entrepreneurship and basically trying to get like really abundantly wealthy in more ways than just money. One of the interesting things is when I first got started, relatively recently, I had to pick an avenue, right? I had to pick an avenue because I basically had no money. I was out of college and broke as a joke. And I had to basically pick, hey, what's going to get me wealthy? What's going to give me that abundant lifestyle that I want? And obviously we're here in real estate now. And it's I think we lost Dan.
Well, no, I'm still there somehow. The video disappeared. Hang on, dude.
Okay, no problem.
I've beamed back from the ether.
Thank you. It was through the sunroof too. But yeah, so this is one of the things I really wanted to touch on this, because as someone who, and this is going to go back to a lot of our sub-2 community, right? A lot of guys who are very young like me, a lot of gals who are young, and they're basically at this point where they're trying to start building wealth in a big way. And most of them, I always recommend that they remain singularly focused, at least in the beginning, to build, because they're in a building phase. I'm in a building phase. Now I'm starting to be in a point where I start having, like now I have disposable income that I didn't have, 7-8 months ago when I graduated school. And now it's like, okay, now I can diversify. Now I can start looking into other industries, other niches, other assets that can, really skyrocket me to the abundant lifestyle that I want. And being young, all I hear about is crypto. Like crypto seems to be the thing. And if you're talking to me right now, what advice would you give to someone who is like me, who's young, who now is at a point where they have some income and they want to get into the crypto space, but they have a massive learning curve ahead of them?
Okay, so it's pretty simple. It's just asset allocation. A lot of people think like just because I'm a crypto guru or whatever, a majority of my wealth is in crypto. It's not true. Over 80% is in real estate. And a lot of people go, yeah. I'm like, yeah, industrial flex, retail, multifamily, you name it, right? So, and real estate is the core exit for me. But crypto is awesome, and stocks and equities are awesome as well. So it's asset allocation. So what I always do is, and a lot of my friends talk about the same formula, we call it the 40-40-20 rule, right? 40% in conservative investments. They're not super adrenaline rush type of investments. It's like real estate, kind of actually boring. It's just mathematics, right? And making sure the math pencils out, and being consistent with that. 40% in mid-risk type of items that are, for me, are like large tech blue chip equities, right? Stocks and things like that. And then 20% in moonshots. And moonshots for me is crypto. Crypto is pure gambling in my mind. It's super risky. It's got a really good upside though, but you have to have some of that moonshot exposure, as well. And don't be afraid to take profits though, on your moonshots. Don't get greedy, If you have something that goes 100x or something, my rule is if certain positions double that are like moonshot, I take my principal out. I let my principal ride. Whenever it doubles, I take 20% off, stick it into equities and real estate. And, and if there's a major crypto correction, then I'll sell some equities, move them over to moonshot, right? Just to balance the ratio. So if you just follow a consistent thesis, you'll get it. And there's a thing called a 5-year rule that I follow. One of my mentors taught me, Mike, in fact. So it's like, look, if you're 5 years patient with real estate, if you're 5 years patient with good quality stocks, and I've added this to crypto, good quality crypto, you're probably going to do okay. But it's 5 years. Are you willing to hold this piece of real estate for 5 years? So everyone's asking me, hey man, I can buy this multifamily unit now at a 4.5 cap, blah, 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 4 cap, 3.5 cap, wherever the math is. I'm like, look, I mean, it depends on the property condition, location, and blah, 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 upside. But if you're going to hang on to it 5 years and the math pencils out, you're probably going to be okay, even if there's a 30% correction in the market in real estate, right? So And you guys know, Pace teaches this probably to you guys, you know, it all pencils out. If your NOI, your net operating income is a lot bigger than your debt service, great, you know, and you're not dealing with just one big tenant who may bankrupt, you know, and if you have multiple tenants, then, you know, and if you have enough buffer to cover the debt service, should you have a vacancy issue, then you're fine, right?
Yeah.
So it's all actually really easy though. A little kid could understand most of the stuff. It's just I think people tend to mystify and complexify how anything is done. You know.
I think that's so true, right? Especially with social media nowadays. I like the word that you use. They mystify it, right? For me, and I'm like on the outside looking in at things like crypto, and I'm like, because I'm spending all my time on real estate and building and doing what I'm doing and executing here, it's I don't get to spend that same time looking at those other things. And I'm sure that if I did, I would very much. I love your approach and the way that you speak about it. Is it's asset allocation, it's a little bit of diversification, it's basically hedging your bets the right way using the right formulas. And just maintaining that perspective and approach to them is the key to it all. So that's actually really I'm really glad you said that, because for someone like me, it's I think in a lot of other young guys who are now at a point where they're like, hey, you know, we're doing well here, let's start branching out, let's maybe start building out in some other things. That mystification can end up being very it can blur the lines really, really quick. So I appreciate you saying that. That's actually huge. That's one of my big takeaways today, completely. And we still got some time to go.
Hey, you know, one thing that I want to tell you guys too is, you know, all the different gurus out there, right? You see all the Instagram gurus. Everyone has a damn mastermind.
I'm part of all of them.
If you want to know though, if someone is like a long-term winner, now anybody can shift their life quickly, right? Like that's what life's about, right? Hitting obstacles, learning, and getting better. But if you want to save yourself some time, just look at their LinkedIn history, right? And look at what other people that are very prominent, people that have way bigger money than they are saying about them.
Yeah.
And look a decade, it depends on the age, a decade or two back. Now, if they've got 20, 30 years of historical performance, or even a decade plus, the chances are they're not one of these people who like wins, takes massive risk, goes rock bottom to zero and wins and goes zero. You don't have to get your ass kicked over and over and over to win. You can learn from mentors. Okay, wait, there's a landmine. I can do some preventative to like try to avoid that way before it becomes a problem, you know? And so, you know, a lot of these gurus though, they're not what they seem. Like 95%, 99% are not what they seem. They're making money just selling courses.
Yeah.
And they're living 1 month of burn rate to 90 days away from bankruptcy. That's 99%.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I think that's important. Obviously, it's something that you're very passionate about as being somebody who is a coach and a mentor in the space. And it's very clear that you yourself, you value mentorship and you value people who are authentic and people who have been in the game a long time, people who have that experience and that track record. So if you don't mind just sharing with us a little bit about some of your mentors. You touched on, you know, one of your mentors and you've alluded to a few other ones, but if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit about your relationships with your mentors and kind of how they shaped you and allowed you to really learn from the backs of their mistakes. And so you didn't have to be the one who hit rock bottom. You could utilize their experiences and their mistakes in the process.
My mentors have usually been older people, most of them in their 60s and 70s.
Nice.
And it's easy to pull a background check and see who they are and what they've done, right? And they're not glitz. They're not trying to take my money. They're not charging me anything. They just do it for philanthropy. That's all my mentors. I don't pay one of my mentors $1. We don't even do business, most of us. And how do I meet them? A lot of people ask, well, how'd you meet them? At charity fundraisers, usually. So like Jeff Flam, he is one of my friends here. He's like just turned 70. It's like 3 years ago. He had more commercial real estate in our state than any one man owns commercial real estate.
Wow.
And crazy.
Yeah.
And I met him at a charity function. Like we're trying to help American Indian kids with scholarships, you know? And he's like, hey, you seem like a good dude. You're helping out people. I like you. Anything you need, here's my cell phone, bro. And I'm like, cool. So I meet with him every few months. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this deal. And he's like, cool. You want, I want to help you with this. Cool. Let's go. That's what you do. You got to find out their pains and help heal them. One of my other mentors, he said, I have a nephew who's suicidal. He's adopted. And if you can help convert his mentality to a positive thinking, I'll give you $1 million. This is like 15 years ago. So I sat down and coached this kid for like a month or two. And then the kid has his own business. He's doing great. He feels like he has direction. He did it himself, He's like, dude, I'm going to give you $1 million. And I'm like, I don't want your $1 million. Just we're friends, man. And so now if I need anything, just call him. His name is Vaughn. He has did all the concrete for the 2002 Olympics for like the whole state, like most of it. And has all these different companies and real estate. He's a real estate guru. He's probably number 2 to Jeff, but he's still big. And he's like, he's industrial flex, man, not office. And so he's like, yeah, I'm here for you, whatever, man. So you really got to find people's pains and heal them. If you want the real Grandmaster Jedi, because real Grandmaster Jedi will not take your money for training. Period. End of story. I'm talking the highest level. I'm not saying the guys that are pay to play aren't real, but the highest level, the upper echelon, complete Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobis.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why you see on my page, I don't sell courses. People are like, start your own course, your own mastermind. I'm like, well, I don't need the money. I'll just give people the knowledge. Great. Some guys will take it. Some girls will take the information and some won't. I don't freaking care. But there are those people that are going to take it, maybe like you guys, execute it and pay it forward. And every one of these mentors, I ask, well, how can I ever pay you? They're like, just be you, but share it with those. If it helps you, share it with those that are less fortunate, because that's how we're going to save our country. They all believe that.
I have to speak about this, Logan. If you're okay with that, I'd like to take a few minutes and just talk about my experience this past weekend, because it basically goes hand in hand with what Dan's saying.
Yeah.
And that's that. I'm not gonna name who it is, just for privacy reasons. This past weekend, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and technically Scottsdale for the All-In event. Carlos Reyes' amazing event. It was a phenomenal. Jerry Norton was there. Pace spoke. It was Ed Milet was the final keynote. It was a phenomenal event. Now, when you go meet those speakers, it is under the context, at the end of the day, under the foundation principle that you have paid to be there and you are part of the 1,200 other people that are there. And just through happenstance, I ended up connecting. And Logan's the first person to tell me this. And I actually started thinking, I was like, this is actually amazing. He said that the real relationships aren't built in the giant event room. They're built in the hallways. And Logan, I love watching Logan. I'm a people watcher. Logan would stay in the hallway. The event's going on, and guess, the keynote speakers are killing it, doing their thing. Everyone's, going crazy. There's 1,200 people going crazy in like the arena space. And then Logan's outside with the 20 people who are outside, just like personally connecting and building relationships. In that hallway, I basically ended up connecting with an extremely high, someone who's worth a lot of money, worth a ton of money. And this person invited me to their home, and I spent all 3 nights with this person. And a lot of my friends who are young, they're like, Sam, how do you keep getting in these rooms? Like, how do I bring value to someone who's worth $100 million plus? And I'm like, dude, I don't bring, it's a mindset shift. If you're thinking financial value, I don't know that there's much that I can do for a guy who's worth $100 million, because the reality is he's probably got it way more figured out than I do. And my mindset on it, I learned this from Pace, actually. Learned a lot of things from Pace. Pace is a great teacher. He's a good dude. He's a phenomenal dude. He's got a heart of gold. His family's amazing. But my thing is this: I don't try to approach it. I realize to never approach these high wealth, high value people with a financial value, perspective, because reality is I can't. Maybe one day, but not yet. And then once you start viewing it in a little bit of a different way, you talked about philanthropy and how they want to give back. The reality is these are human beings who have emotions, who have desires, who have personal dreams, and they crave, because they're humans, natural human interaction that is past transactional things like money. So the entire time I was there with this person and his group of generals, or his entourage, and they're all killing it. They're all doing amazing things. My whole thing was this: don't talk about business, don't talk about money, get to know their families, get to know their friends, get to know what they like to do in their spare time. And the good thing for me is that usually most rich people either play golf or tennis. And I love tennis. So that's usually my inroad. But Dan, I think that it goes hand in hand, right, with what you said. It's charity event. I never thought of that. Like, where can we connect with these high value people? Well, when you go to a high-end charity event, the person who's donating 25 grand probably has a lot of disposable income and might be a good connection to make. And if you build that relationship under that foundation versus paying for their mentorship, the foundation of your relationship, of your meeting, of your introduction is just different. And that's huge.
It's totally different. It is totally different. Yeah.
I think there's actually so much value in what you guys both just said right there. And it really is like when people are looking for mentorship, right? The easiest and super fair, like, is to give someone money, right? And it's also really easy for the other side of it just to take money in exchange of like a level of commitment. However, what is really cool, Dan, what I've heard you say, and Sam, how you just phrased that right there, is what's more valuable than a transaction is the relationship and getting to know somebody and actually finding authenticity and how can I serve this person? How can I help? And that only can be done when you actually are able to develop a relationship and listen and seek to find how you can actually serve someone outside of, here, you take money and then go solve your problem. It's like, let me keep the money and let me solve your problem for you. Right. And
Yep.
I think that was really cool that you said that, because I actually have many mentors in my life, and I do pay for some people, but I also do have mentors very much like you said. Like, I just found a way that I could provide value to them that they don't charge me. And so I've seen that side of it. And I think you're actually the first person I've heard who's actually said that explicitly, that you don't pay any for any mentors, and you basically find them in a very authentic way, but at the same time providing a ton of value, like more value than you can even give it money, which I think most people don't have the belief in themselves.
I only go to one paid mastermind, and that's my friend Dan Fleischman's Avengers.
The Avengers one? Nice.
And I'll tell you why. So, like, the first time I meet Dan, he's like, "Oh, dude, I'd love to see your operation. You guys manufacture computers for pro gamers and game studios and everybody." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. I heard a lot of good things." He comes down. He goes, "Dude, these are so dope. Your stuff's so awesome. I got a few friends that would like one. Just buy one or whatever." So he FaceTimed Steve Aoki. Steve's like, "Holy crap, this is awesome, dude! Just bring one to my house, dude. So awesome." So, like, in a few days, we're at my whole family. He's like, "Bring out your whole family." We're all hanging out with Steve in his play zone, jumping in his foam pit and stuff, and checking out his pool. And he's opening Pokemon cards with my daughter, so he's offering value. He's like, "Dude, your daughter likes Pokemon. I heard that." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, come on live stream, man. We'll open up and pull some Charizards or something crazy, And so that's why Dan, that's how he earned my trust. He's just like, "Dude, I know, like, you think Steve's cool, and gosh, your computers are cool," and he likes computers and playing Call of Duty or whatever. That's a good hookup. So that's the only mastermind that I pay for. And I don't go, like, the guys that speak there, I know most of them, at his things. But I like to go, the number one reason I like to go is to hang out with Dan, which is cool. And if you have the other people there that are just cool to know, which is really great. And out of all the people there, I know a little bit of stuff, but I know a lot. But Dan gives me, he knows my weak area, and I'm very authentic about it. My weak area is actually being as social as I should, because I'm really in front of the numbers crunching a lot. So he gets me out of my shell. And if you've met Dan, he's a little bit like Vulcan awkward like me. We're like brothers in that. But he has figured out how to master that in his own way. And he's like, "Hey, this is how I deal with me. This is how you should deal with yourself. Try that and see if it works." And it's really worked. So that's great. That's a good way to get into someone's brain, is just find out what their needs are, and help.
Wow. So it's funny because, and then part of me was wondering, it's like, okay, are we going to talk about the computer manufacturing process? Or are we going to talk about, I got to say, like, I grew up as a gamer. One of the reasons why I want to have an abundant lifestyle, an abundant, system of wealth is on the lifestyle end. What I've made is I just want to be able to, if I decide I just want to game for 12 hours, that's it. So 100%, we need to talk about later on. We need to talk about these gaming setups, because I may need one like today. But Amazing. Thank you. What you're basically talking about, right? And there's so much value to this. This is one of the most important things that I think we could ever talk about is the value of human relationships and understanding that there's fulfillment past money. And in entrepreneurship, we're money motivated. A lot of us are, and that's totally okay. But when connecting with someone as connected as Dan Fleischman, who's a phenomenal dude, and he can pretty much open any door in the world for you. You didn't do that through, you bought into the mastermind, but at the end of the day, that relationship is solidified in actual human connectivity. And it's something that I think so many people overlook right now, especially my young peers who are trying to make it in this space. It's always about how can we give value, but it's always monetary. It's, well, okay, I can't afford $20,000 for a mastermind, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for this mastermind. How do I connect with them? The reality is, you said this, it's find out what they need. A lot of times they may be crushing it in business, but they don't get to do what they love. Like right now, I grew up on tennis and gaming. That's what I grew up on. I haven't played tennis in over a year almost a year, because I've been so busy working like 12 hours a day doing this. So and this is not me putting myself up in any way, but if a new investor who wants to learn from me in any way, like instead of coming to me and asking me about systems and deals and this, that, and the other, come to me and invite me to play tennis. Make me get out of my house and go play tennis. I swear to God, like we're going to be friends for life.
There you guys have it. If you want to get on your good list.
Yeah. You have to be good at tennis, though. If you've never picked up a racket before, I'm not doing it. Amazing. So,
no, there was a funny one. I posted something which is funny. I get all these people. They think just because I own a lot of cars, I like to hang out with people with a lot of nice cars and go on drives. I don't do those. I like to take my wife to dinner, my kids out, and that's about it. And go to maybe lunch with close friends and business associates. So I don't do like social drives and big car shows and all this weird stuff. I have nothing to prove doing that. But it was interesting. My daughter is an artist and she makes a full-time living doing this. So I posted on there, hey, if you guys want to help me, you can always ask if you can help me. Go to my daughter's page. If you like a piece of her art, buy one of those pieces of art for your kids or yourself. And I must have had, I think we had like maybe 120 people go buy a little something from her shop, which was great, her website. But it was funny then, as usual, for the next week, I had all these people asking me hundreds of asks. Dan, can you do this for me? Can you do that? Can you help me with this deal? Can you hit this? I'm like, did you read my post? Like, dude, if you won't even buy a $10 sticker for my daughter, like, why am I going to give you $25,000 an hour worth of my time? I don't get it. Whereas like people are very obvious on their social media what means something to them. You know what I'm saying? So you might see some social media influencers or gurus. If you want to interact with them and they post a picture of their kid, you're liking all their stuff about money and hustle and the Lambo. They post one picture with their dog. And like, I mean, the best thing you can do is, dude, that's a cute dog, man. Love that dog. And then you're like, they care more about you saying their dog is nice than their Lambo because they got 6 Lambos. And, don't care. But the dog's got an emotional connection, or their kid, or whatever it is, right? You just got to see what's dear to people's hearts and resonate with that, and help with that. Like my dog got sick, and I had a bunch of people that, hey, this is what will help your dog. Here's a doctor. Just random people. Man, I owe those people. I'll answer I'll give them my cell phone number, man. They can call me whenever, So you just got to look out. I mean, when people have pain, you have to see how you can help them with their pain. And everybody's pretty obvious about that in some sort of way, Everyone goes through struggles,
Yeah.
So I think it's important, Q.
You know what you said? I think fundamentally people would just they'd be a lot happier if they focused on what they could give rather than what they were trying to get. And that was a huge epiphany, honestly, in my life when I was upset. I felt entitled because I felt like I should be getting all this stuff. And when I was able to truly like come from that place of just giving, life became a lot more peaceful. I became a lot happier, and I became a lot more in control as well because I can control what I gave. You're not so much in control of what ends up happening, the outcomes of what you end up getting. And it's funny that you said that right there. I'm sure there's a lot of people on here who are listening to this podcast like, man, I really want to hang out with Dan. I would love to pick his brain. And literally he just told you, he's like, drop the website so we can go donate to your daughter, right? Like that's actually what needs to happen. It's like, how do I go donate and how do I go buy something? It's not even donating. It's going in
No.
purchasing, right? It's going
Only
purchasing.
if you
It's
like
making,
it. You know, I go, if you
Yeah.
think our art sucks, don't buy it. But you know, we have all these crypto CEOs though are hiring her to drop NFTs for them and design
Mhm.
murals for their offices, and you know, and just because they're cool, and maybe they do that because they want my help with the project, which is fine. One of these, it's funny. I won't mention the CEO, killer dude. His token had over $1 billion market cap, right? He's doing pretty good. So he actually went out of the way,
Pretty good.
and he goes,
Pretty
"I saw
decent.
your post." He goes, "Will your daughter come out and just paint a little portrait on my wall?" And I'm like, "Okay, just pay her fairly, dude." And he goes, "Well, have her send me her crypto wallet address," and he sent her 10 grand. And I was
Nice.
like, "That's pretty cool, bro."
Yeah.
But now, like, you know, like maybe once every couple of weeks, he'll message me, "Dude, we got this problem in our contract. We got this. Can you help us with that? What do you think? Can you steer me in the right connection?" I'm like, "Sure, bro." You know. So that was like really looking out for, you know, for those kind of things. Just keep your ears open, man. You know.
Yeah.
Now the easiest one is charity. So you want to get in Dan Fleischman's heart, for example. Like he does everything, right, dude? He's amazing. But he'll post about once or twice a year about a charity where he gives backpacks to homeless people with supplies. And like nobody reshares it. Like maybe like 2 people or 3 people that I know in my friend group actually reshare it, or actually even give them some money for that. Like who wants to give backpacks to poor people? It's like people are so self-centered. But what they should do is when Dan Fleischman posts that backpack thing, not only buy like, you know, 10 backpacks or whatever, but share it on their feed and get every one of their friends to go buy a backpack. Help those homeless people and say, "Dan, thanks for introducing me to this. I'm going to spread the word." And then you're in his heart forever, man. He'll never forget about you. Like, oh, man. So if those of you who want Dan Fleischman to be your friend, support his charities that he posts. And he only posts them like once every, like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months or something. He's not always like, gimme, you know, those charity things. He just really cares a lot. So
Dan just gave us the cheat codes to get into his heart and to get into Dan Fleischman's heart. Like the cheat codes.
in anybody's heart, though, you know.
And you're so right, though. You're right.
You know. Sean Whalen, my other crazy friend, Lions Not Sheep dude, Sean, he's wild man, awesome, I love him. But he'll post stuff that like, "Hey, my son is playing football with this, and we're raising money to get jerseys for the team." Not that Sean can't buy the whole team of 5 billion sets of jerseys.
Yeah.
He's just like, you know, I'm showing my son how to raise this. Well, go support his son or his daughter in their cause. And Sean loves you, man. You know, it's like the clues or the window of opportunities keep open. You got to hit that mark when it opens. You know.
Yeah.
So I just realized this, and I didn't realize this until we talked about it. And you spoke about it. You spoke about supporting your daughter, in basically what is a phenomenal. If it ends up being a full-scale, full-fledged career for the rest of her life, then I'm sure there's going to be a beautiful body of work with it. If it's just an entrepreneurial endeavor right now, there might be something different later on, right? Maybe she ends up just taking over the NFT creation space. Whatever it is, it's that she's pursuing something, and I'm sure that you and your success and your life story have a lot to do with her pursuing this entrepreneurial endeavor. It's so funny that you said that because I didn't realize this. Logan knows this. I'm wearing these top 2 bracelets that Carlos's Reyes' daughter, I think she's like 5 or 6 or 7, made. She spent hours and hours making these, and then I didn't even realize it. They were they had a very limited batch of them, and they were selling them at the All In event. And then I made sure to go ahead and get 2. And this has nothing to do with I'm never going to go to Carlos Reyes and be like, "Hey man, I bought your daughter's bracelets." Reality is, 1, I love bracelets. Logan spent a lot of time with me. He knows that I always have bracelets on. But 2, there's an element to just understanding that. 1, I also actually do really love supporting another generation of entrepreneurs, especially one who may be 5, 6, 7 years old, because that's proof of concept at a young age, and it's an amazing thing. I wish I had that at 5 or 6 or 7. But another thing, it's finding out what Carlos cares about, right? Carlos cares about his daughter going and living an amazing, abundant lifestyle, like that he has made for himself, but he wants his daughter to have that as soon as possible.
Well, next time you bump into Carlos at any other mastermind, he goes to a lot of them, right? Just go up to him and go, "Dude, hey, this is freaking awesome."
I actually okay. I'm gonna say this here. I've got this plan. This is my plan for the long term, right?
Carlos plan.
No, a little bit. I've got like this is one of the things is I'm always visualizing the future, right? And this is something I learned to do from a lot of people, a lot of high level people, is they always visualize the future. Like they're in the now when they're building and they're doing what they're doing, they're executing, but they visualize a lot what they want in the future. And a cool thing is I one day want to be able to share the stage with Carlos. Like I want to be able to share the stage with him, and he's not going to realize it, but at some point I want to be able to. I'm assuming his daughter would be there supporting whenever this happens. Maybe it happens in 5 years. Maybe it happens in 10. I don't know. I'm going to be able to, hopefully, as long as they don't break, I'm going to be able to showcase that I got these 5-10 years ago at the first event that I ever met Carlos at. And it ends up being a beautiful story. And the reality is that connectivity is massive. It's so massive, and no one thinks about it. No one thinks about small things like that. Dan, I think you're actually giving... We've got a lot of amazing guests who've given a lot of amazing value, but I don't think anyone's really kind of talked about this, because what you're talking about essentially is how to make best friends in life. It doesn't matter how much they're worth. It really doesn't. Doesn't matter how powerful they are. Doesn't matter how many Lambos they have. Like, this is human connectivity at its core. So for everyone who's watching, like, I would rewatch this. Everything Dan said, I would actually just rewatch it again and just be like, okay, this is it. And come up with like, don't be tactical. Don't be strategic with how you're going to make friends. But understand that this is how human beings work. There is motivation. There is fulfillment that is needed that isn't financial at all the time. It's not financial all the time. So for Dan, I am going to financially, some way, somehow, try to get a gaming setup like this. I have to do this. I'm going to go ahead and like find other ways to get plugged in. And especially, I don't know, Dan, if you play tennis or if you're a gamer or not, we'll have those talks at a later time. But this is what it's all about.
There's a trick. Another thing. I don't know if it's a trick. It's just something you need to do. When you meet people in person anywhere, you always say, hey, I go, hey, my name is Dan. Your name is? And I always smile and I put my hand out, palm up, right? And they'll shake your hand unless they're a knuckle person, which is fine, right? And then I always just, sometimes they'll ask me what I do, or they recognize me, fine, I'll talk to them. But then I always ask, so what are you working on? And I'll smile and I'll just shake my head, yes. And I won't say anything until they tell me what they're working on. And they basically will tell you their whole life story. And usually that it's a 5 to 1 hour conversation, depending on how old they are. Older people like to talk more. But what they're going to do is tell you every answer to the test that you need to know to find their pain and how you can help them. So you're seeking their pain by what are you working on? And something's going to come up in this whole 1 hour story the old guy tells you. And then you're like, well, I might be able to help with this. That your next answer out of your mouth is, I might be able to help with this. So you said, okay, you're working on this. Does something that means something? I know a guy who could, or I could. And as soon as you do that, then I always take my phone out and I go, here, let me share you my contact card. What's your cell phone number? I share it over. And then boom, suddenly I got their cell phone number, like a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately after, if I got to go, hey, I got to go, I'll text them that evening or the morning and be like, hey, I found someone who could help your granddaughter with this problem that she had at school, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh. Suddenly you got a best friend because you've helped them. And then you don't ask for anything. You're not going to blow them up or pick. Can I pick you? Because then I usually just let it simmer. And then every once in a while I'll go there and I'll text like 1,000 people and be like, hey, this is Dan. I was checking to see how you're doing, man. How's your granddaughter doing with that? Some updates. Wondering if that helped out. Oh, dude. And they'll go off. Dude, let's go to lunch, man. And I got filling in how awesome that is, dude. Hey, and I saw your video where you're working on your hedge fund. I'd like to put $15 million in. It's your story, like this kind of stuff. Like, life's weird like that. But you have to plant those seeds of without expecting something in return. You have to plant those seeds, and you have to plant them with every human being you meet all day long.
Yeah. So hold on, I want to say something about this because this is really good, right? This actually goes back to what I just talked about previously about Dan, like just showing the cheat codes of, again, not for him, not just for Dan Fleshman, but for everybody, right? And here's the wrote this down. Like, here's like a simple formula: is when you're engaging with somebody, like, what are you working on, right? It's like the opening to give them, it'll allow them to share with you your opportunity that you're looking for, that you can help serve them, and then at that point, you're listening for how you can help them. And really, what you're looking for is the who can serve this person, right? That's what you're looking for, is like, it's that connection. And then you're letting it simmer, right? So you're not just going right after. You're not going just like, okay, I got this and now I'm gonna go for this. It's letting it simmer and checking in with them, saying, hey, give them the value, and then, hey, we're just thinking about you, basically, right? And I've always thought of this concept as digging the well before you're thirsty, right? So it's like you like you're digging the well, and you're pouring the foundation, and you're not going to make an ask, right? Not for a long time, or maybe even ever. Like in your case, Dan, like you might never ever ask, right? But you're continually checking on the well. You're continually checking in on it, but you could, if you needed to, you could pull that card out and you could make an ask, because you're in a position to, even though most likely you have just so many freaking wells that eventually, as long as you check on them, like, water's just going to be coming over the top, right?
When you do your ask, I want to give you a secret. When you do ask, when I ask my mega mentors, I would just be like, man, I don't text, can I pick your brain? That annoys everybody. It's like remove that out of your vocabulary. Yeah. I just text, hey, Mike, how's it going, man? Man, I need your help with just some Jedi advice. I've got one of the biggest problems I've ever experienced in my life, and I think it's something that you might have experienced, and your wisdom, just a sprinkle of your wisdom, would be so valuable, man. And that's it. That's and awesome. Then they'll freaking run to just call you, dude, what's going on? And you're like, I got this guy, and he's threatening to sue me, and he's like ex-employee, and he's crazy or whatever, And then they're like, oh, we'll just do this, this, and this, and this, and this. Oh, let me give you the lawyer to handle that. Cool. Yeah. So, but that's how you ask. You ask, be thoughtful. Now, to be thoughtful, you can template your ask on your phone. So you've stripped it out, a very thoughtful way to ask that appeals to almost all people, and make sure to use that. Don't be abrupt with your thumbs. Can I pick your brain? Because they're going to be like,
That's amazing. Yeah. So another piece of that I want to touch on as well is you said this, you got to do it with every single person, right? Like, you got to basically use this, you got to use this system, this format with every single person, which ultimately means one thing. And I think this is actually the root of the reason why someone like you, Dan, why people are so attracted to you, and Sam, same thing with you, and I've said this before to you, is that you're authentic and you're real, right? So that authenticity, when you do it with every single person, it becomes just who you are, rather than something that you're trying to do, or it's a script. And maybe in the beginning, maybe it might seem like a script, because everything is when it's new. But when you are able to come from that place of, like, you actually want to give, you actually want to help this person, you actually do want to serve them, it becomes the skill set that you practice every single day. And then it's just this formula. What are you working on? Trying to find solutions to you. It becomes automatic, right? After a period of time, it becomes authentic, and people are attracted to authentic people, rather than, oh, this person's just trying to get something from me.
I want to tell you a very genuine story. This is a true story. So there's this girl named Michelle. She's now executive vice president of Intel Corporation. But I think it was like 15, 16 years ago, maybe closer to 20. Time flies, man. Anyway, so we're at this meeting, this computer tech meeting thing up at Intel, and they're like, we need everyone to partner up with a partner to build a computer, like, we're going to build a laptop computer. And there was a whole room of people, and nobody was picking this girl. She's like this intern, kind of nerdy, and nobody was picking me because I was a lot more shy back then. I was just kind of iced down, And then when all the teams around getting picked, there's just me and her standing there. She's this intern chick at Intel, and I'm like, hey, will you be my partner? Like, I guess no one likes us, but she's like, yeah, cool. So we built this computer together, and during this talk, I go, you're going to be like, I don't know, executive vice president or CEO of Intel or something one day. She's like, whatever. I'm like, you're going to be it. I can see it. If you want to be, you'll be it. She's like, let's just build this computer. And her name is Michelle. She's actually in the post I just did with the CEO of Intel from when I went to Texas. And I got a picture with Michelle, which is there, and she commented on that, which is funny. And it became, she made herself the executive vice president of Intel. I mean, it took her 20 years, but now she's like in the top command level. I mean, one of the largest corporations in the world. And she, and it's just cool to see where a seed of like, I'm not getting anything out of this person. I'm just being cool and nice to them and, trying to say something positive to when they've been maybe beat down because they're picked last on the team, like me and her, And that goes a long way. 20 years later, that can mature into the greatest relationships ever. So, I just say look for those relationship opportunities. Don't be in the what's in it for me mode all the time. And that's hard to do as an entrepreneur because you're hungry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the trick to that is just schedule out, predetermine in your mind that you're going to go to give and serve. And then when you're ready to make your ask, everybody will say yes. They'll probably read your mind is what usually happens, Yeah. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I think it's everything, Dan, and I just love how you summarize that up. And so as we transition here, we do want to know, like, what are you working on? Like, what is Dan working on right now? And I mean that very genuinely. Like, it was like very genuine. Like, what do you have going on? What are you working on? What is your goals? What are you moving towards right now?
Obviously, well, Xidax, our computer company, keeps scaling and it's great. And so we love working with influencers and business people of all types, and big corporations and end users and just people like to play video games. Yeah. And then Bridger Pennington and I launched our Ugly Unicorn hedge fund for accredited investors. And so that's launched. It's filling out. It's almost full, but we're doing capital calls this next couple weeks for completing all the capital calls. And that's awesome. That's the big one, the crypto hedge fund. And that's been phenomenal. I'm really excited. That's my really excited project.
And so it's about that. That's something that's obviously very unique. Hedge fund usually is in the real estate space, and you play in both spaces. So what is a crypto hedge fund look like, and what is it like? What is the asset people are buying into?
Yeah, so most people, they buy crypto because they hope it goes up, right? Whatever coin you're buying or bag of coins, right?
Yeah.
So our hedge fund, we provide liquidity for exchanges. And what does that mean? So when you trade Ethereum for Bitcoin, for example, you know how like Coinbase charges you a fee, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever exchange you're at. We provide the money for exchanges to do those transactions, right? And so we make a lot of money for our investors whenever someone trades. And that's great. Now, if crypto goes up, obviously we can make some money. But even if crypto stays flat, we still make a lot of money for our investors. So that's probably the quick explanation of it. So now we're managing for tons of these family offices, large wealth investors. And it's great. But even like, entrepreneurs that have they're accredited investors. A few of them were letting some friends and family in at smaller amounts, like a couple $100,000 or something like that. No, it's fun. It's so fun. I love it.
It's awesome. And so what does it look like in comparison to someone who invests in a syndication in multifamily, and they're going to get maybe monthly, most likely maybe quarterly distributions, and then they get an appreciating asset? What sort of benefits does a crypto hedge fund or fund, have in comparison to something like that?
So my partner, Bridger Pennington, his family, they have my friend, his dad, John, they run a $36 billion multifamily unit hedge fund.
Nice.
$36 billion.
With a B.
Incredible. With a B.
With a B.
No, we're not new to hedge funds. Our fund by the end of next year will probably be 2 to 3 billion size. But what it looks like for most people is an annual payout, right? And they can just take the money, or they can reinvest back in if they want to. And the difference, like most people hold crypto and hoping it goes up. Think about crypto as real estate. We collect rents on the crypto we hold in our portfolio. Wow. And we pay that to our investors. So not only if Bitcoins go up, yay, but we're collecting rents along the way. Yeah. That's the big differentiator from everything else out there.
That's amazing. And it would be unfair of us to not talk about the state of crypto right now, with it going, on its way down. Tell us, obviously, someone who's been in the game and been in other asset classes for a long period of time, like, what advice would you give to the person right now? And obviously that's very, very, very general, but like, tell us what your thoughts on the state of the union right now, and then going into the rest of 2022 and into
Not
2023.
financial advice, but broad market
No.
analyst.
Exactly.
So right now, I think the Feds are gearing up. They just tweeted out, the Feds tweeted out today that we can't say whether we're making a U.S. Fed dollar, or we're not going to deny it. We're not going to say we admit it, but we're considering it.
Mm-hmm.
So Jerome Powell has already said that a well-regulated free market stablecoin could possibly coexist without a problem with a federally issued digital dollar. So I believe there's going to be, just in my opinion, that there will be a digital dollar released soonly by the federal government as an exit asset from all digital currency. It'll be centralized, controlled by our government, so they can tax it or whatever they want to do with it. And once that happens, all of the institutional investors are going to flood into crypto. Right now, the whole crypto market's like 1.5 trillion. My crystal ball says you probably have a 10 to 15 trillion dollar market cap in less than 5 years once this drops. So, yeah, once that happens, things will be cool.
And then, as far as somebody who's looking on the outside of crypto and looking to get in,
me,
who's the mentor? Yeah, who's the mentor? Who's the person that they can go to or they follow? Obviously, can they follow you, and how can they follow you, and where do they follow you, and how do they get into the game?
Just at Dan's Millionaire Code. Maybe you guys can put a link below, and if you post this out.
Yep.
There's a million fake accounts. Make sure there's more than I think it's 1,700 actual posts. Most of the scammers who make fake accounts don't repost every post. It's too much work, right? So that's what I would look for, and more than 150,000 followers or something.
Yep.
But that's the place to go. And I just talk about this market update all the time. What I would recommend is just like stocks, and just like crypto, and then also for real estate in a little bit different level, dollar cost averaging, right? So for myself, I'm like, okay, every year I'm going to buy 15 to 20 real estate projects every year, no matter what. Market's up, market's down, got to buy. That's my target, 15 to 20 deals. That's my participation level. That's real estate dollar cost averaging, right?
Yeah.
On stocks, I have 10 stocks that I believe these companies will do good through time and they're profitable and all that. And every month I just buy a certain amount, right? Same thing with crypto. Some people, not saying this is the coins, but some people just do it with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Keep it simple. That's like the big ones, right? Whatever you do choose, just be consistent, whether it's $50 a month or 100 or 100,000 a month or whatever. Just be consistent with it. Don't freak out if it goes up or down. Just be emotionless and run it like a robot.
Got it. So you're definitely talking about in a sense of investing it rather than trying to trade.
Yeah, don't trade, man. Traders lose long run, man. Like all these guys, forex trading, trading. I'm like, yeah, let's see where you are in 10 years or where you have been. I guarantee you those guys, most of those guys you see, they've been bankrupt once, twice, 3 times, man. Because when do they lose tomorrow? It's hard to be a professional gambler.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I'm terrible.
I think that's really refreshing. Just, and again, it goes back to even the talk that you gave to that small investor club. It's just like all the principles align with crypto. It's the same thing with real estate and with business. Like all the principles are in alignment. There's not the assets classes are different. However, the psychology and the way that you play the game has been the same. And that's obviously why you've been successful.
5-year plus holds. Remember that? 5 years plus holds.
Yeah.
Any asset, 5 years plus. If you're not willing to commit for 5 years plus, don't get in it.
So this is, I know we're running up on time here, but this is something that's so for me get into other asset classes. The reality is with that mystification, it's easy to get emotional about them. And Dan's whole approach on them is just, it's math, it's asset allocation, it's a little bit of diversification, and it's being consistent with hitting a certain number. And then I love you said this. You said it's like a minute ago, just be emotionless with it. And
go watch. So this is your homework, okay? Obviously, you can follow my stuff and all that, whatever you want to do there. But go watch Star Trek, the original series, and watch Mr. Spock, the Vulcan.
Yeah.
And truly try to be a Vulcan in their most logical state. Because Spock said, vigorous logic is how I release tension.
I love that. I freaking love that. So guys, I mean, there we go. We've got an inkling of it. I know there's an ocean more of wisdom from Dan, but we basically, in short, in an hour, have gotten Dan's millionaire code.
There you go, man.
Like, this is amazing. So I mean, honestly,
so this is your homework. Watch Star Trek, but also take action. Like, don't be like an asshole. Don't be like, oh, how can you help me? And like, watch this and just like write it down or just not do it. And then I always ask that people take. You don't have to send me money, but take 10% of your net gains and give it to a good charity. I don't know what you guys, but I like Tim Ballard's Operation Underground Railroad, where they save kids that are being trafficked and like terrible stuff happening. So take 10% of your gain, give it to Tim's charity. They're awesome. And then the third thing is like, if you find any stuff valuable, like even from this podcast or mine or whatever, just share it so you can help more people. Right? So you're paying it forward. That's how you can do it. It's my big ask.
I love it. It's making your money matter, right? When you give back to, especially worthwhile causes, especially with anything that has to do with, there's a ton of charitable causes out there, but I love that. Logan knows this. I've got a public service background before I got into real estate, before I got into entrepreneurship. And one of the biggest, most compelling things for me was human trafficking. So the fact that you said that and that was your go-to, you've already said a lot, right? That we've gotten a lot that you were calculating. You are extremely smart, too smart for me. But a lot of what you've said is building human relationships that are authentic. It's now you're talking about basically giving back, right? I'm not I'm not religious at all, but Pace is very emphatic on tithing, and a lot of that is not just giving up 10%. It's like you make a deal; it's giving up the first 10%, right? And he does that a lot of times with certain things to charities, and it doesn't even pay himself first. It's the tithing; it's the charity gets paid first. It's prioritizing them first, and that's huge. That speaks a lot to. All this is speaking a lot to not just your success, but you as a human being. And this is amazing. So it's been an honor to meet you, truly.
Great to meet you guys too.
Yeah. And just follow up with that, Sam's like spot on. And this conversation has been amazing. It's not at all what I think any of us expected, or maybe it is. And it really comes down to, Dan, you just being a very genuine human being, and all like everything you've done. It's very clear that it didn't happen on accident, right? Everything you got, like you had a system, you did it with authenticity. It took time, it took experience. You have a calling, and ultimately, that's why you're here. It's definitely not an accident. I think that's actually one of the most important things we could showcase, is that they see Dan on Instagram with 150,000 followers, driving the cars, all the things that people can sometimes get the wrong idea, or they only see a snapshot. That's actually all it is. They just see a snapshot, but they don't see the origin story. They don't see where you came from.
Cars are just inventory to make money on.
Yeah.
Cars are just marketing tools and inventory. Nothing 100%. More. No major emotional attachment, man. Just inventory.
I think it's so valuable. This conversation has been so valuable, and you've honestly given so much, and it's clear that that's just who you are. Like, you're like this. It was easy. It wasn't like you had to like plan this. You didn't have to like sit down and like, what am I going to say today? Like, it's like you just gave us the authentic Dan Young, right? I think
thanks for letting me be on, guys.
We just appreciate you so much. Thank you for hopping on here. And again, if you guys want to give, right, go, number one, follow Dan, right? Go learn as much as you possibly can, not just about crypto. Obviously, like he's known as crypto, but dude is crushing it in business and in real estate, and outside of that, even too, as a father, as someone who's into wellness as well. I know you have lots of stuff going on, right? Mentorship, like you have so much stuff going on. It's so cool. Give us a script to how to serve someone like himself, how to serve someone like Dan Flashman, how to serve everybody. Actually, that's just the template, how to serve anybody. And so thank you so much. Go follow him. Instagram, YouTube's got podcasts as well. And go take action, right? As Dan says, go take some freaking action. Go serve. Go give some money. Go serve with time and money and everything. So thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. We're out.